the Constitution of Kenya is very clear. They are post-election coalition. And they are pre-election coalitions, which we saw Ruto, which we saw Musyoka making CORD, another one making Jubilee. Then after elections, you are allowed by the Constitution. Let's not break Constitution and bring a lot of confusion among the Wananchi. The Constitution of Kenya says after election, any leader can now move to create a pre-election, a post-election coalition. And that's what Uhuru Kenyatta is doing. That's what if Raila is declared tomorrow, will do. So there is nothing wrong.
But I want to ask you, yes. Dismas, if Uhuru Kenyatta is not the one who was forming the coalition, and by the way, Amani, UDF has, Secretary General has sent a statement saying that UDF has not signed any coalition agreement yet with anyone. But if Amani had actually moved into the CORD side and it became the absolute majority, where there's proper strong opposition in the House, would you be having a problem?
You know, for me, Latif, my interest in this accumulated matter is that whoever becomes president, when the Supreme Court makes its final ruling, he must be in a position to consult with the Senate and Parliament when taking a decision. So that, you know, we get this copy from America, that if you've got, say, a Republican in the White House, the Democrats control at least one house, the lower house or the upper house, so that the president does not have absolute powers to run the nation.
Checks and balances.
Yeah, checks and balances. And when you go to our Senate today, if you can allow me to finish the point I started earlier on, we've got a lot of bright talent in both houses that if Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta is the president, he can tap into. Like, for instance, when Mr. Kiraitu Murungi comes up and he says, I want to be the majority leader in Parliament. Well, we don't have that specific position, but it's going to be there. Then you get nervous because these are the guys who've been there for the longest time and Kenya has not made progress. That's why we need new faces like Professor Kithure Kindiki, you know, Hassan Omar, young guys who can take Kenya to the next level. While they come from particular ethnic communities, they respect Wanjiku and they have the public interest at heart. For me, that's my only issue.
Can I remind you, just in the same breath that you said that the Wanjiku rejected some people, Wanjiku brought some people also to that Senate. So when you're talking about a leader who's been elected by his people, and you're saying it's the same people, you're basically disrespecting the same Wanjiku.
I think that's why Latif, you are right. That's why they brought 50 plus 1. If you have less than that, you don't become anywhere near the leadership of Kenya. Let's be very honest. All these people are going to have roles. All these who have gone, the Professor Kindiki, the ones you are talking, they're going to have roles. But the Constitution has said principal secretaries, the former PSs can be appointed by the Public Service Commission. The ministers that are going to be selected, you must resign. If you are a governor and you have been put in the cabinet, you leave the governorship. Oh, no, sorry, the senator. You leave the senatorship. So they don't want, why the checks and the balances are going to be helpful to your constitution is very clear that there is no more holding these two. You must be away from what the other queue is doing so that you are brought to cabinet and fired and said the road is not being constructed, corruption has been here, this road has been staying for 10 years, please go. But when you have MP, people come and say, our son has been removed. 2, I want to add on a point that Ndolo brought, nice one. Actually, constitutionalism. Thank you. I always give a credit where it's due, even if somebody is an enemy to me. There is one thing that he has said. In fact, we have institutionalized tribalism. And I have been saying this for a long time. There is no governor in Muranga who comes from Kisumu. By 2017, let's be very careful. We shall have supermodels of kin and kith ruling each region. So the new parliament and the speaker and the MPs must look at that act very carefully so that we don't institutionalize tribalism. We want somebody to break the barrier of leaving Mount Kenya and become elective post in Kisumu. Somebody from Kisumu to go in Mombasa and be it no, in Mount Kenya. I'm making this point because he touched on something that has pained me all along. And I even talked to him about it in Bomas. I said there is a very institutionalized tribalism here. All the governors come from their own homeland. There is no governor except one Somali man who won in Homa Bay. I think that's, and then Kidero, and then a few people. But when you look at all the governors, is from Pokot. I hope the central government must check on some of these powers, because some of these governors could become a political, powerful force.
Are you seeing the danger that Dr. Matsanga is seeing?
Yeah, of course there is that danger which we need to check. But allow me still to go to this point that these two gentlemen have denied me the opportunity of finishing.
You still haven't finished this
talking about new wines in new wine skins. New players for a new season. I mean, for all guys who watch soccer, they know that every time the season comes to an end, you get new players. So going back to...
Yeah, but you don't sell all your old players.
Yes, I mean, going obviously, that's the case. You may need to retain a few. But when you go to the case of, say, Dr. Kizure Kindiki, this is a young man who has demonstrated that, he has read law, international expertise, and that's the kind of guy you want to lead the creation of laws in the upper house. I mean, to be majority leader and take Kenya to a particular section, because such kind of a young talent, they are not held hostage by, the ethnicity. For them, they are looking at the public.
Dismas indirectly campaigning for Professor Kindiki.
You know the many names you can give. I mean, that's the name.
You are now also forwarding a name. Indirectly through a national radio.
You've got to answer that question, because it's actually emerging.
I mean, I've
mentioned... Are you holding brief for Professor
Kindiki?
No, I'm not holding brief. I've mentioned Mokua Kibati. I've mentioned Dr. Ndolo Otieno.
Kipchumba Murkomen.
Yeah. Kipchumba Murkomen. I don't know much about him. Yeah. Okay. I haven't mentioned him. I'm just naming names.
Benji has mentioned Sonko.
Yeah. Well, but I haven't mentioned Sonko because, again, I've not interacted with him to know exactly what he offers.
Page 20 of the Sunday Nation.
Yeah, but look at Latif. Look at what Mokua Kibati has done at Vision 2030. Look at what Dr. Ndolo Otieno has done to Kenya Commercial Bank. Those are the new players you need to take Kenya to the next level, because they've demonstrated that they've got a track record of success and you can rely on them. And for them, their principal interest is Wanjiku and the public good. They're not held hostage to any sectarian or selfish interests.
I think my thing is this. Whoever will form a government must balance between the technocrats and the political lifeline. If you say you are only going to pick technocrats only, then you also risk to be wiped out in an next elections. So that's why the Constitution, Dismas, has set aside the technical places in cabinet and the political ones. So there is, I don't know which one you want, where Odo and Kindiki should play. Which one?
Let me take a divergent view. If you get Dr. Ndolo Otieno as the cabinet secretary for Treasury,
yes,
and he's able to address the monetary policy, fiscal policy, so that the cost of living in Nairobi becomes very low, you create opportunities for everybody, you give incentives, then every voter in Kenya would be happy. And they'll be most delighted to vote for Uhuru again, because, we want to address the butter issues, that we need to access bread and butter. If you get anybody, if you get Dr. Matsanga, say, you are given honorary Kenyan passport, and you become our cabinet secretary, and then you're able to drive Kenya, we take care of the export markets, we sell our beef to Saudi Arabia, Egypt, we create a lot of jobs, then people will vote for Uhuru Kenyatta because he has kept his promise. So there's no need of getting people who have been rejected by Wanjiku.
I concur because Odro is my friend, and he put up the bank to the level. That is okay. I concur with him. He's a man who can deliver. But what
do you think should Uhuru should look out for when he's forming his government, if Uhuru is let to actually continue running?
For me,
or whoever the president is going to be.
As usual, Latif, I like to take a long-term and philosophical view. I'd like to caution the country that with the passage of these elections, you've got a lot of disillusionment, a lot of confusion, a lot of bitterness, a lot of recriminations and reassessment of IEBC's role in everything that went down these last few weeks. I think that we have, and with, again, my advocacy work, it is my job to say it, and to be held to account for going on the record. That's why we do this work that we do. That's why we go on the record on TV, on radio, etc. Because usually if you do your work well as a professional, then you get vindicated. But let me say that we run the risk here of, I know this is not a very good example, Syria, because they're at war now, but you don't want a situation where you have two protagonists, as we did in this coalition government, and one of them is the president and the other one in charge of the forces and the police. And then you have a mobilizer, a big-time mobilizer outside of government, in essence with the people, which is what Mudhama was being accused and arrested for. He's my Kangundo MP, by the way, for saying that from Kibera
he's now
until Pwani, yeah, exactly, from Kibera until Pwani is Raila. From where until Nyanza is, I think it portends a struggle of sorts, and it's important that Kenyans unify and come together and understand that we are one country, because it's very easy, Latif, as we saw in 2008, and this by no way mesitized to the full potential scale, which is why Justice Krugler said that it was a picnic, that it is very possible to actually break a country apart. And so for somebody like me, that is my worry. My worry is not, the small stuff, who gets meat in their mouth, and, for presidential candidates. That is really the small stuff. It is the bigger stuff. Is where will Kenya be, Latif, for your son 20, 25, 30 years from now? What are the grievances? What are the facts that are going to be there? How do I explain all this to my watchman? And how do we, in essence, enhance our Kenyanness? And so many times I've been asked by many, including Jeff Koinange, including others, which side do you lay, bro? And I say it all the time. Really, I am on the side of Kenya. Yes. A better Kenya. And as you know, some of us have really taken this quest for a better Kenya very seriously when it comes to reforming our markets, breaking apart the culture of exploitation, enhancing consumer advocacy. Because, again, as we said, we are a poor country where a vast majority still are at the mercy of a very small minority that live better than the wealthy in the suburbs of San Francisco.
The statement that everybody keeps making, that I am on the side of Kenya, and I think maybe at some point we'll need to define what Kenya is, so that we are all very sure that when somebody says I'm on the side of Kenya, it's the same Kenya.
Yes. Yeah. Beware. There are those who are latecomers and who are using all these different things that we've been trying to do for a while and repackaging them and using for propaganda. One Kenya, Kenya moja, peace, peace, peace. Nobody's talking about the facts, about justice, about the fact that if you pursue justice through the path of truth, that you have nothing to worry about and peace is always going to be guaranteed. But now we've had a commercialization, an attempt at gagging the media and whatnot, so that the story and the real picture is not portrayed to Kenya and the world. However, in the fullness of time, as we all know, the truth always comes out.
Now, I need to give an elderly advice here, which is needed by Benji. Yes, as an elder who is older than the rest of the two in the studio. Look, what Benji has said touches me very seriously. People need to understand that these things have happened now.
Thank you, sir.
And they go. But in political science, you must remember, it is evolving. The democracy here, there's one thing that you should know, is just beginning. America has been 200 years. So let's be very careful that we should not look like Lakunule in The Lion and the Jewel. Those who have read that book would say the lion and what Lakunule said when he arrived in Africa with a trout that is shorter in the legs. Look, let's be very honest here, that things take time. I want to be on record again, to be the first person and to say it on national television. The Electoral Commission, IEBC, and I told Ndolo I will say it wherever I find him.